Hi, everybody. Thanks for attending today's webinar, 5 Steps to Cash Efficiency in Any Industry. It's brought to you by Cashmaster. My name is Jason Stegent. I will be your moderator for today's webinar. Today's session should be about 30 minutes or less from beginning to end. We're going to go through a presentation, share a case study with you, and then also end with a rapid-fire Q&A. So if you have any questions for today's presenter, please send those questions in. A few housekeeping notes about the environment that you're in so you can make the most of your experience today. I already mentioned we're going to be in and out in about 30 minutes. We are recording today's webinar, so if you attended it and want to view it again, you'll have access to the on-demand version. If you missed us, no problem at all. We'll send you an on-demand link to where you and your peers can view it as well. There is no dial-in option for attendees. You're going to be hearing today's presentation through your PC speakers or through your mobile device. So if the audio is not loud enough for you, or if you're in a cubicle-based environment, make sure the volume's up, or regarding a cubicle-based environment, you might want to use headphones. In terms of how you view the webinar, you'll see a number of boxes up. One of the questions we frequently get is, can we view the presentation in full screen mode? Absolutely. All of those windows have min-max options, so if you want to view the slide deck in full screen mode, you can maximize and do that. You'll see a number of widgets or icons at the bottom of your screen that enable you to do a number of different things. You can share this through social media channels. You can email out of this if you want to share this with your peers. For frequently asked questions, if you're having any issues or want to understand how you can optimize your webcast experience, you should be able to get all the information you need in that FAQ icon as well. There's also a resource icon. It's the one that looks like a paperclip. Within that, Cashmaster is hosting some content to make it available for download. So if you want to make even better use of your time today, just click on that icon, download some of those assets, click on some of those links so you can learn more about Cashmaster and how they help companies improve the cash management process. And I mentioned the Q&A. It's the box under the speaker box. If you have any questions, we want to answer as many as we can. Simply type in your questions, click submit, and our presenter will tackle those at the end of today's presentation. Speaking of today's presenter, her name is Martina Galanado. Martina is a field training manager for Cashmaster, and she is perfectly suited to speak on today's presentation. For today's webinar, efficiency is really the key term. And it's probably even more important today than it's ever been. We all know that operational efficiency has a big impact on profit, and operations teams and loss prevention teams are under constant pressure to deliver savings that convert to the bottom line. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand it over to Martina, who's going to take you through the 5 steps that Cashmaster goes through with their customers to really increase efficiency. So Martina, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Jason. So like Jason said, I have a lot of experience when it comes to this. I do this on a daily basis. So when assessing efficient cash management processes, I run kind of through the following steps. They're easy enough to remember, but definitely something you won't forget or regret when looking at your own business. So the 5 simple steps. So number 1, map out how you handle cash in your organization. So you want to document your process from start to finish, everything that is done during the day. When you actually understand your current process, that's when you can create a foundation to build upon. Step 2, determine the cost impact your current process is having on your business. So we often find that this is a light bulb moment for customers with where your money is actually going, where it's being spent, where it's being used. Step 3, pinpoint risk and wasted. So once you understand your current process and the cost to the business, you can see where time is being wasted as well as where risk is being added in. We'll give you some things to look at and questions to ask yourself about your business to kind of further along that. Step 4, you want to streamline your current process. So it's now time to figure out how to get rid of or minimize the wasted time and risk factors you highlighted in step 3 and ultimately streamline what you're doing. And that brings us to step 5, optimizing and automating. So step 5 goes hand in hand with step 4. After you make the immediate changes, you need to have a more efficient cash management process. Look at where you can eliminate human error. You don't have to do any automation to drive efficiency, but most business process experts experts agree that reducing the number of manual steps can only result in an overall process improvement. So you want to take out all of the human error possible when going through the process, because that's where the mistakes are unfortunately made. We'll talk about some questions to ask for determining if automation is actually right for you or if the process that you have in place now is sufficient. So we will also, after going through the 5 steps, give an example of how CashMaster followed these steps to optimize a well-known fast food chain, and then we'll wrap up with Q&A. We look forward to sharing this information with you, and I really hope that the information is helpful and at least that you take something away from at least one of the 5 steps, if not all of them, to better help your business for sure. So we typically start with looking at the daily cash management task. How many different processes do you carry out every day? You're going to write them down. The tasks that we generally see might include some of these. So start of shift preparation duties. What do you do when the shift starts? Easy enough. Cash lift, pull, or skim count. When does this happen? How often does this happen? Audit, spot check cash count. A typical process in many businesses that allow managers to have an understanding of cash flow throughout their store and ensure that cash is being properly handled throughout the day is normally what your audit is. You're just checking in to make sure that everything's going smoothly and that the cash is where it's supposed to be. End of shift closing duties. So what do those include? Typically different preparation duties than preparation duties. This often includes manual data capture, preparing the deposit and the float for the morning, which obviously the deposit and float preparation is probably the most important cash handling task of the day and probably the most, and also the most sensitive. This is when cashiers count all of the money from the day, and based off what the till gets floated at, they take the deposit out of the till, prepare the money to deposit in the safe, and reconcile any cash differences that have occurred. Definitely the most time-consuming, the most vulnerable for human error, because you're going to be doing a bunch of things in technically one step, but you're going to take 3 or 4 steps to get there. Once you have all of those, you are going to break them down. So we suggest breaking down the tasks into further categories. By doing this, you'll start to see the full picture of cash management, and in steps we'll mention see the consistency or discrepancies that arise if the process is as efficient as it could be. The bottom line of step 1 is really figuring out and getting to the bottom of what you're doing currently. Step 2, analyzing the cost to your business. So there's a lot of cost questions that you want to ask yourself when looking and analyzing the cost to your business. We have a bunch of key questions that we can go over. I'm just going to shoot off a couple of them. You know, how many tills do you have? How many times a day do you count? How many people are involved? How long does it take? What are the reports involved? Who creates them? And just kind of everything that is encompassed in what it takes to get this process completed throughout your day, every single day. So how much does your current process cost to your business? If you haven't looked at it before, the answer is often a surprise, because bottom line is you don't know. You don't know how much it costs. You don't know where the time is going. And you often find that management or all the stakeholders who are pushing for operation efficiencies are surprised. So quantifying the cost is key. Cash management may be a task that you don't consider high priority when figuring out what to spend and how much you need for it. But by determining the cost to your business, you're able to present a stronger case for implementing positive changes, knowing that a new process can drastically reduce the cost. There are obvious cost drivers, kind of like I mentioned in the questions, the number of tills, number of times you count. But other questions can be overlooked. How many people are involved? How often are these errors made when reconciling the POS? How long does it take to reconcile those errors? And how often, does staff end up going into overtime to finish out for the day? Something to think about, something to really take and dig into in your own business. Those are probably the most impactful factors, but there's obviously others. We have a template that you can download from the website to help get visibility of the cost. To get an idea of what cash management can cost your business, we've done some quick math using the factors above. Day-to-day, the numbers aren't very high, but considering these costs adding up over a year, the surprising results are one store with one till spends, say, $7,300 in annual labor. Our clients can typically save 80 to 90 of these costs. If you multiply that and go 50 stores with 3 tills each, you're spending $1.8 million in annual labor. Consider those numbers for a minute and allow them to sink in. If you're a larger organization, your annual labor costs are greatly impacting your bottom line. Millions of dollars could be saved annually just by implementing these 5 steps. As we'll discuss later, our clients typically save 89% of labor costs using our tried and true techniques. So that takes us to step 3, pinpoint risk and wastage. After, obviously, you've seen how much it costs your business annually to have a cash management process that is not efficient, it's time to work on pinpointing where these dollars are being wasted. Step 3 is to pinpoint the risk and wastage with your organization. These pain points, as we like to call them, typically come from human error. Do employees, did they count the cash? Are they manually recording data? Transportation. How many times do they move the money around the store? Do they have to physically take their bank bags to the bank? Security and shrink. Like most businesses, yours likely suffers from shrink and security issues. Loss prevention. What are these issues in your business? Really pinpointing where they are and how to fix them. Do your devices talk to each other? So the connectivity of equipment. Do you have to count your register and then type it into the POS, and then at the end of the day, you're going to take that money, bring it back into the register, and then go from the register, go to the back room, then record it, and then put it in the deposit. Different things for different businesses, definitely a lot of steps. And then auditing of processes. How often do you audit them? How long does that take? Typically, this is a function of data management. Is your data readily available in an organized format? Understanding these pain points in your business is very important. How weighted each one is, it's an important segue into step 4, which, streamlining your current process. So now that you fully understand your process and where your pain points are, it's important to streamline the process entirely. Instead of reinventing the wheel, look at where you are and where you can start to add in or take away processes that work for your business that can better them. Maybe you are not doing as many manual reconciles. Quickly making some changes can easily affect the cost of your business and the efficiency of your processes. We find these 5 areas typically have the biggest impact on your pinpointing of wastage, reducing the manual processes where possible, reducing the amount of time cash is in the open, so having to count it, counting, you want to be quick at it, you want to be efficient, you don't want a customer to walk up to check out while you're counting at the register trying to figure out what you're going to deposit for the day. You want to minimize the number of occasions people are walking back and forth to manage cash. Hopefully it's all done in one place. That can be one huge thing that can save time. You want to create a written process for each touch point. So a nice standard operating procedure, I would say keep it to 1 page and laminate it and keep it somewhere where your whole management team can see it and go through it and find easily, where they are in their process. And number 5 is audit adherence to process. You can easily go to implement the first 4 steps for a good cash management process, and when you add the 5th, your process goes from good to great. Last but not least, step 5, optimize and automate. So this is part of optimization. You want to automate whatever parts of the process you can. So obviously step 4 and 5 go hand in hand together. You're going to figure out where you can optimize the most time and then figure out where you can automate. I've mentioned multiple times, obviously human error is one of the biggest risk factors when you're counting things manually, when you're writing down numbers. So finding out where you can automate is one of the biggest things. Can you automate your cash counting process? Can you automate record keeping for greater accuracy? And can you also automate data transfer? Depending on your standard operating procedure, that's where you're going to figure out where you can automate and implement. So things to consider in your optimizing and automation. There's some things that you can't go back and automate. So it's also realizing what is going to help your business versus what could possibly hurt your business. Things to consider when you are bringing in any level of automation is, simplify the process. Complexity for the sake of automation is not worth the investment. Introducing an automation should fit neatly into your business. The customization should be built to match your process as it already stands. Enhancement. So it should enhance your current process. Some things that we look for when we work with clients are, is it quicker? Is it more accurate? Does it bring better visibility of cash to the business? Is there a better way to enforce accountability? Does it enhance control of cash? And does it provide kind of better data? If the technology can bring you a combination of those things, the business is likely to benefit. Obviously, if it brings all of those things, then it's a definition of an efficient process. Customization. So can you work with a vendor to customize automation technology so that it matches your embedded best practice and business processes? If it can, it will definitely enhance adoption and the speed of integration into the business, also ending in efficiency. So for staff involvement, I think, is one of the most important things from our experience working with clients who've become experts in change management. And we understand that the value of ensuring staff can contribute to putting a new process. So if you're bringing in new technology, involve the staff in setting it up and make sure that they're well trained. So you want to make sure that they're the ones coming up with the questions, they're the ones using the device, because they're the ones who are actually in the day-to-day processes. They're the one counting the money. They're the one going through the process. And ultimately, if they're not happy, then your process will not be efficient. And finally, try before you buy. Even if you have one store location, most vendors will give you the chance to trial their technology. If you're a multi-store location, we recommend a trial. And once you're happy with the technology, we'd also recommend a pilot in a good number of stores to make sure any customization works that you've intended for and that there aren't any small hiccups that need to be ironed out before your big rollout. So there you have it, your 5 steps to an efficient cash management process in any industry. To kind of recap, your 5 steps are map up how you handle cash, analyze how much it costs your business, pinpoint risk and wastage, optimize, and consider automation. So I'm going to go over kind of a case study. We worked with KFC, as you can see, kind of through all of those 5 steps to figure out what would be best. And hopefully this can give you an overview of what we do and figure out how you can implement these steps into your business overall. So obviously step 1, we mapped up in a discovery session. We met with KFC and said, how many tills do you have? How many times are you counting a day? So everything from start to finish and figuring out how long it actually takes for them to count their tills, where are they finding things that shouldn't be, and then wrapping that up. So step 1, so our discovery session. Step 2, calculating the cost of business. So we highlighted that 85 minutes of their day was spent counting cash. You may not think that's a lot, but you put it all together, 85 minutes, and then a week, and then, a month, and then a year. That's a lot of time counts. When you're working in a fast food restaurant, your customer service is number 1. So if you can imagine counting your cash as opposed to helping a customer, it can make or break, what people think of your business. So then we pinpointed the risk and wastage. So their process was messy and time-consuming, so 2 people needed to count, but the biggest issue was the data the stores needed to keep. So each time the till was counted, a large form needed to be filled in manually by denomination, double-signed, and then the data was manually entered into the POS. Lots of opportunity for human error and lots of wasted time. Those are huge. We talked about human error and then how many people are actually involved. So then we moved to step 4. Optimization. So we trialed the Cashmaster One Mac in 5 stores, and while we worked with them to optimize their process. So we did a training session with all the staff in each store. It doesn't take long to train on the Cashmaster One. I always say that it's a lot like an iPhone. The more you use it, the easier it is, and it's a touch screen, so it always makes it a little bit more fun. So we took on board their feedback once they started using the devices and worked really closely with the ops director for the region. So we probably trialed for about 6 weeks in total, optimizing, customizing, evaluating, until we were all happy that the solution and new process in place that they had worked through were delivering the benefits that we had hoped for. Step 5, so automation. Our technology is really designed to automate as many parts of the process as we can. So the cash counting was one of them. We were able to do this in a fraction of their time. Printed reports. So we customized reports to reflect the data that each outlet was capturing manually, and this was printed directly from the device. And then we also created a simple integration process. So we used a QR code, which is standard barcode, and linked that to the POS, and that transferred the data to the POS. So once they counted, they would use the QR code, and the QR would link it directly to the POS, which then entered the data right away. So they didn't have to worry about typing in what they had. And obviously, kind of the results. So we found that after the trial that each store saved 1 hour per day at least. They saw a payback on their investment in under 10 weeks, which is unreal. The process is now delivering on the 5 elements that we discussed in step 5. So it's faster, more accurate. They have a better visibility of cash and where it's going, where it's at during the day, better accountability, better control, better data, and overall a happy staff, which I mentioned was one of the biggest things. So a trial success, which is awesome, a happy customer, and implementing those 5 steps is obviously the big reason why we were to get where we were. So, Jason, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back to you. It looks like there are a bunch of questions coming in, so I'll let you go ahead and handle that.
Thanks, Martina, for that great explanation of an efficient cash management process. Just now, like you mentioned, we have some questions coming in from the audience, so let's tackle those. If we don't get to any of your questions, we have a bunch of them. If we don't get to any of your questions, Martina or somebody from the Cashmaster team will reach out to you directly offline and make sure that you get the answers you're looking for. So let's start with this first one, Martina. This is coming from Shelby. Shelby wants to know, does this technology work for businesses other than restaurants?
Thanks, Shelby. That's a great question. So, yes, this technology does work for businesses other than restaurants. You're looking at not just restaurants, but retail, airports, luxury vans. The way I think about it is if you are counting cash in any way, it can be implemented. And that's why one of the biggest things we do is we look at your business, the functionality as a whole, where we can save time, and that's where we implement ourselves because we completely customize your process with our process.
Okay, great. We've got another question. This is coming from Michael. Michael wants to know, isn't cash becoming obsolete, Martina?
Yeah, that's a great question too. We get it all the time, every place I go, they're like, well, we use credit cards. And I'm like, yes, I use credit cards too. But the fact of the matter is that cash still accounts for 30% of transactions. And I mean, you're looking at, millions and billions of dollars, and 30% of that is still a lot of money. So, no, it's not becoming obsolete.
Okay, great. We've got one that's coming from Dave. Dave wants to know, what's the difference between CBW and other solutions, Martina?
Yeah, so for those that don't know what CBW means, count by weight, one of the biggest differences that I see is kind of the maintenance is one of the biggest things. The simple implementation, if you're looking at things like a lot of people compare them to friction counters. So people who don't know what that is, it's the devices that make a lot of noise and count your bills, which those ones, they can break down a lot. They don't count coins. But we find that our device, and particularly with count by weight, it is simple, it is portable, it has fast payback, high ROI. So once you've paid back your investment on the front end, you can see you're just saving money for your business and to be able to use that money in different places.
Great. We're going to take one more question just for the sake of time. And like I mentioned, if we didn't get to any of your questions, Martina or somebody from the Cashmaster team will reach out to you directly. I think this is a perfect final question to tackle, and it's pretty simple. It's coming from Samantha. Samantha simply wants to know, how do we get in touch about a Cashmaster solution?
Thanks, Samantha. I appreciate that question. Probably maybe the most important one. So you can see my contact information is on the slide, and you can reach out to me. You can call. You can go on Cashmaster.com and submit an inquiry. And just a reminder, the fun ROI chart, you can go on to Cashmaster.com and fill that out to see how much time it can save your business on that little fun worksheet. But basically, any way that you can think of, you can get a hold of us. And we look forward to hearing from you guys. We look forward to feedback, to any other questions. Feel free to reach out and let us know what you think.
Awesome. So that's all the questions we're going to take. Like I mentioned at the beginning of today's webinar, if you attended today's session, thanks again. Be on the lookout for how to access the on-demand version. You'll be getting a link to that shortly. If you missed us, if you registered but didn't attend, no problem on that end either. We'll send you a link to the on-demand version so you can see what you missed. Also be on the lookout for some additional Cashmaster webinars and other content pieces coming out in the coming months. We'll be sending promotions for those shortly. I wanted to thank everybody again for attending today's webinar. We hope it was informative and you got a better idea of how you could make your stores, your business more efficient through cash management solutions like what Cashmaster brings to market. Also wanted to thank Martina for your time today. Thank you, Martina. Looking forward to doing it again soon.
Thanks, Jason.
Fantastic. Everybody have a great rest of the week.